What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Postgame Podcast. I'm your host, Cory Smith. I am here for a special edition. All three of us able to get together on a late night here, 1:30 start time after, another NC State loss. Frustrating way to finish the season, but you might have been able to see it coming. Here, it didn't actually introduce you guys at all. I'm fumbling the beginning of this thing, much like NC State fumbled.
They know who we are.
Game. Yes. Miles Masercola, Brian Geisinger. Appreciate you guys for jumping on. I'm saying, like, when I do the audio version, people might not be able to know who we're even talking to at that time. But yeah, NC State, frustrating loss again. You come down the stretch, you fight back. I mean, this was a little more of Texas taking it down the stretch, but and hitting the shot they needed to. But NC State played with your food entirely too much throughout this game, especially down the stretch. A lot of things kind of lead into this, but it really felt like the end of the first half. Texas not making a single shot the last 8:40 of the first half. NC State's defense actually performing well down the stretch. Did foul a couple times, and I think Texas hit 5 free throws in that last 8:40. But for you to not be able to find a way to go on more than a 6-0 run, for you to not be able to close the first half out with a lead and go into halftime with a little more confidence tells you a lot about the way this team was able to put it all together down the stretch in this season. Miles, I'll throw it to you first, just your general thoughts on this game before we really jump into things, man.
It felt very for the taking for NC State. This was a very, very winnable game. They did some things well in spots, but again, just weren't able to put 40 minutes together at either end of the floor. Paul did his best efforts late to play hero mode and made some really, really big shots and stepped up defensively to make some plays too. And when they were starting to apply pressure, but just everything that went wrong for NC State were different things that went wrong for them over the course of the year. Whether I think the biggest thing I harped on early on was that possession focus. They had a stretch of turnovers late in the game that really, really hurt them. A team that really they haven't really turned it over that whole lot this year either. But yeah, just emblematic. The defensive rebounding was terrible. Once again, that was a real struggle for them in this one. They found a way to get some late, but just wasn't enough. But they really lost this game in the first 30, 35 minutes of it, despite the comeback effort late. They just didn't make enough plays over the course of the game to build the lead they needed to. And Texas had a couple guys play well, but for the most part, it was a pretty regular performance from their star guys. Mark was really, really good down the stretch of the game. Obviously hit the game winner, hit a couple big shots late, but Swain didn't do a whole lot. Big fellow whose name I'm going to not try to pronounce here was really, really good until he fouled out. And Weaver was really energetic off the bench and rebounded it really well, but they could have won this game and they just didn't do enough over the course of it to get it done.
Yeah, Matas Vocatitis, by the way, is how you say it. And yeah, I mean, he was one that played really big in this game for them. And obviously, Venal Lubin did everything he could to fight back against it. But Vocatitis with 12 free throws in this game, only made 7 of them. But him fouling out, helped NC State down low, and they actually went small multiple times. Unfortunately, you just weren't able to find any offense out of those. BG, just your thoughts on this team too.
Yeah, I thought the real difference in this game was like the Texas guards and wings, the effort level, the defense. Obviously, Trevon Mark hit the big shots at the end, those last 40 seconds of gameplay. But I thought Mark, Weaver, Swain, who's obviously is the one sort of special talent on this team. He didn't have a great offensive performance, though he did get to the line 9 times, but he had a couple of steals, had the block at the end on Williams that sealed it too. But I just thought their defense on Darian Williams, their defense on Quadir Copeland, the way they kept Paul McNeil in check for big stretches of the game with all of his off-ball movement, the way they handled State's guard screening actions, that to me really felt like a key battleground for Texas that they were able to win in this one. And certainly Texas getting State's fives in foul trouble, getting to the line, dominating on the offensive glass. They rebound 37% of their misses. They get 15 offensive boards. But to me, the real swing piece of this was that the wings from Texas did a lot of dirty work. They guarded well, and there was just stretches of this game. It felt like State's half-court offense was just totally stuck in the mud. I think part of this was because Lubin was in foul trouble. They didn't have his screen roll gravity going downhill to the rim. And then Copeland, as good as he is, he's a little more like one-dimensional in terms of like scoring, and it just felt like it was just a battering ram of him going to the rim. And after a good start for Darian Williams, he sort of was quiet, I thought, for big stretches of the game too. So, look, it was on the table. There were periods of time where it certainly seemed like State was going to pull away and win this thing, but in the end, I think Texas had just a little bit more toughness and defense that sort of like pushed them over the finish line. And this was probably State's best defensive game in like a month or so. I'm not even joking, but the offense unfortunately just did not bring it tonight.
I think your dog is telling us everything that we need to know that NC State needed to have more dog in them.
Yeah,
a little more bark than bite this season for NC State. Yeah, but
apologies to anyone on the audio. Hopefully, my dog is not.
This is a pro dog podcast.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. You might go do what you need to do. I know you had to take him out just a second ago, so you're good. But yes, we will. We'll discuss a little bit more before we really jump into things. Though I do want to remind our listeners, as always, visit our iTunes, Google Play Store, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere that you get the podcast. Hit subscribe, get notifications so you can jump in with us each and every single time we do one of these. I get the feeling we're going to be doing a few of these in the off season, discussing some things with the transfer portal, discussing what's going on with this program, because it does sound like, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, Will Wade wants to see some changes. And I think he said it, basically all across the program, that he's frustrated with the way the season went as a whole. We will play the audio here in just a little bit, but I do want to keep the focus on this game before we move forward. And as always, too, guys, make sure that you do subscribe as well to Pack Power 247. Head over to Pack Power 247. You can get 20 or 50% off a year subscription. To check that out, like I said, the portal will be active for NC State, going out and trying to get players starting in early April once the portal actually opens. There will probably be some news, of what happens over the next players that they want to pursue, and maybe some players that leave the program as well.
Miles, are you still on here?
Yeah, I am. I think Cory might have gotten the boot.
Cory might have gotten the boot. All right. Well, why don't we maybe we can filibuster here.
Oh, he's back.
Okay.
I ended up doing it on my hotspot instead. So the Wi-Fi here has been in and out, so I just decided to log in on my phone instead, which is sitting right next to me. All right, but I was just going to jump right into the next point here and just kind of recap the game itself. Just ebbs and flows of this game. Did want to talk a little bit about, some of the positives from this one, but a lot of the positives in this one are players that are not going to be with the program anymore moving forward. So, Miles, I'll throw it to you first. I mean, just your thoughts on Darian Williams' performance in this game, what he gave you, and that's just, that kind of felt like, for the most part, I know we talked about, him kind of being or going cold for a few stretches, but did feel like, this was one of his better games, and in a big moment where you really needed him. 8 of 18 is not, perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but 3 from 6 from 3-point range. They put the ball in his hands a lot, only ended up with 1 assist, but I don't believe he had any turnovers in this game. So it's like, if you're asking for a guy to step up down the stretch, actually did end up with 2 turnovers in this one, but this was just kind of like the game that you had been expecting from him all season, and it's kind of like, where was that all season?
Yeah, he didn't rebound at all tonight. That was the biggest thing. They really needed him to get like 7
Very good point. Yeah.
And he got 3.
Nobody really rebounded. Yeah,
that was huge. Like the set in this late in the first half, in the second half, like they just gave up way too many offensive rebounds, and Darian was the one getting beat on a lot of those box outs. with that said, came out aggressive early and really kept NC State in the game early. That could have gotten very, very ugly if he didn't have those 10 points. I think he had it before the under 16 timeout, or right after. But either way,
the first 12 points.
He was aggressive scoring the ball, which they needed him to be. He started later in the game when he got those mismatches in the post, started to drive through the defender and finish through contact, which was good, or at least attempt to. But yeah, him not rebounding the way he needed to tonight was the glaring thing from him, regardless of the positives offensively, to be honest with you.
And BG, I was going to throw it to you to talk a little bit more. You could talk about Darian as well, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Q in this game, a guy that, I think we all expected to. If you were going to win, if you were going to go on a run, you needed Quadir Copeland to be, at the top of his game. 7 of 16 is not bad. 16 points overall, hit some shots on the stretch, but there was so many times where he just ran into traffic, got double teamed, and instead of looking to pass out of it, just drove straight to the rim, and it led to an errant shot. 8 rebounds in this game, so you commend him on the effort there on the boards, but just way too many either turnovers or, as Will Wade has called them all year, shot turnovers, just errant shots that end up leading to the other team being able to get easy possessions and getting out in transition.
Yeah, I mean, look, Quadir is the one guy that with a live dribble can really crack the paint and get downhill, and that's just something Darian has not quite been able to do this season. For him, it's been a lot of tough, mid post, turn and finish type shots. And for him, I mean, Texas decided to not double him, in the mid post and those mid post ISOs. And when that doesn't happen, the hope would be that Darian could just put whomever's guarding him into the basket and get a layup. But he had trouble even moving a guy like Jordan Pope. There was a second half possession. He was isolated against one of the smallest or the smallest guy in the court and could not actually create the separation and sort of ended up missing a sort of twisting hook shot. And so it puts a lot of pressure on Copeland to be the guy that's really driving off the offense. State went to a lot, as they have throughout the season and especially down the stretch this year. They went to a lot of guard screening action. Paul and Matt Abel set a lot of ball screens for Quadir Copeland in this game. I think part of that too is because Lubin was in foul trouble and not on the court. So you're just trying to find some way to try to get him going north-south or get a matchup or get Dalen Swain switched off of him, maybe get a smaller player on him. And again, I think they had some success with it, but probably not quite, obviously not quite enough. They scored under 1 point, per possession in this game. I do think the transition, I'll have to rewatch the film, and that doing that charting practice always sort of gives me a better feel for, how the game went. I thought State's transition defense tonight for me was good enough. I actually thought if you had told me before the game that they would be pretty solid in transition defense, which they were not.
It was not the issue tonight. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. And it just the offense couldn't quite piece it together. We did see them go to the Darian Williams at 5 lineup, which I've sort of talked about a few times throughout the season. Just
if you're not going to rebound anyway, you might as well.
Yeah, right. Just space the floor. And again, if there are certain matchups, it's you're probably not going to be able to do it in. And with the the Texas starting center on the court, it's going to be really tough. But when he went to the bench, you could try it a little bit more. You could try it down the stretch of the game. They went to it. They had played that lineup just 2 minutes. They had played lineups of Williams at center for just 2 minutes all season. They probably played, I would guess, 4 or 5 minutes with those lineups on the court tonight. Kind of be curious to see where those numbers look like. Offensively, it probably wasn't quite as good as you would need it to be. Obviously, if you're doing something like that, you're really going all in, and then you're going to switch everything defensively and hope you can just keep the ball in front. But yeah, outside of those guys, to me, the other sort of swing pieces for State's offense, Holloman, Matt Abel, just tough nights, for those guys. Abel 1 of 3 from the floor. He missed 2 free throws. Trey Holloman, had a tough game tonight, rough start. Had some good possessions down the stretch, but just like he was not the type of like secondary creator that they needed him to be. He wasn't that tonight. And then sort of like out of character, like out of characteristics, like Copeland missed a lot of shots at the rim too. And he's probably not like an elite finisher at the rim. This is according to CBB analytics. 42% of Copeland's shots this season came at the rim. He shot 66%. It's a pretty good number. And tonight he missed some good looks around the rim that he would normally make. And it's like, obviously, you can Monday morning quarterback it all you want, but it's like, if he makes 1 or 2 more of those, then, maybe they do end up winning this game. The margin was that close.
Yeah, this is not to like take anything away from his career at all, but tonight was the first night where I kind of watched Cube in pregame and just felt like there was some nerves there. Like it was legitimately, he'll never say that, I don't think, but like you could just see there was like a tense feeling for him that I've never seen from him. And it just,
they played tense as a team.
Yeah, exactly. I think this team came in knowing like, all right, we can't we can't lose this game. Whereas Texas just came in playing with house money. Like we don't even genuinely don't even deserve to really be here. Let's just go out and do this thing and make a run. And again, like I've seen a couple people, this kind of goes back, talking about Kendall Weaver's, effort on the boards, 10 rebounds for him tonight, crashed the boards a ton. I mean, like a guy that came off the bench and he's actually crashing the boards over and over again. Whereas, a lot of NC State's guards are sitting back watching and waiting for a big man that doesn't exist down low to rebound the basketball for you somehow. But I'm looking across the board here. I mean, Swain with 8 rebounds, Vokatitis with 8 rebounds in this game. Weaver, again, with 10 rebounds, actually led the team. Like an undersized guard leading your team, that tells you a lot about NC State's inability to crash in this game. 45-33 was the rebounding margin. I want to look at the offensive rebound margin, 15-7. And NC State with 26 defensive rebounds. So on 31 attempts at rebounds, I guess that's 30. I'm terrible at math. But there's way too many attempts for NC State to not be able to come away with those. You actually, like we talked about the defense earlier. That's been one of the most frustrating elements to watch for NC State this season. And I'll kind of give my takeaway on this, and I'll let you guys give your thoughts. But like, it glared its ugly head again tonight. The most frustrating element to watch for NC State is getting those stops, doing all the things that you need to do, and then not getting the rebound, or they get the rebound and it gets tipped back out, and the other team gets it tonight. The example, obviously, being Texas at this one, but like the fact that you hold Texas to less than 37% shooting on the night. You shot better than them. 39% ain't great, but shooting almost 38% from 3, that should win you most games. The fact that you held them to 29.4% from 3-point range. The only area where they beat NC State was in overall free throws. They actually shot 72.4. NC State shot 78%, but they obviously got a higher volume because of the fact they were able to drive into contact and NC State fouled them. The difference in this game, 100%, was on the boards, on the effort. NC State, whether it was not getting the defensive rebound and then allowing them to get a putback, or not getting their own offensive rebounds, and Texas being able to easily get out in transition. Not to say that they always got points off of them, but you take away what could have been an extra possession for NC State. And they're just that to me, as good as the offense has been at times, and the defense has, actually was really good today, it just came once again down to effort, and this team just not finishing around the rim, not getting what you needed out of this game. And it's just, I think that is one of my biggest takeaways from this team on the season. Whether the offense has been good or the defense has been good, there's just been some mental breakdown there where the team just didn't have the effort to put it all together.
Yeah, this was not a team with a high want-to level defensively, just a natural want-to level. there weren't a ton of second and third efforts from a lot of guys on the roster. And this roster, in a lot of ways, was doomed to fail defensively. And I think that's been acknowledged by a lot of people within the program. When you have the backcourt personnel that you do, and Holloman being as small as he is, Quadir Copeland is a gifted defender, but he does gamble a lot. He's very over-aggressive. There was one play late in the game where he jumped on a three-point shot fake pre-dribble. And Paul's really come a long way defensively, but still has some challenges. And you need size back there to anchor that and protect those guys. Especially if you're going to switch the way you do 1 through 4 or 1 through 5. And that's between that and then not doing the extra things to make up for that with any level of consistency. That's how you got the results you did this season.
Yeah, I've talked about this a lot, so forgive me for sort of beating a dead horse, but it's like this is a defense that coming into the season they were planning to switch 1 through 5, press, fall back into switch 1 through 5, double the post, send early help. And you could see even when they beat VCU back in November, that was a game where VCU got up a ton of threes. They didn't shoot a good number on them, but there were like bad trends. I thought there were like bad habits and bad trends early in the season. And as the schedule progressed, those things sort of just like continued to worsen at times. I never thought the transition defense was good enough for State this season. I thought in a lot of their games, even some of the wins, it was like the thing that kept the game too close or prevented them from actually running away with the game. And a lot of that is just like, it's a fair amount of that is effort. A fair amount of that is obviously like how the transition is created. It's different whether it's like off of a made shot or a turnover. But I didn't think at times the floor balance was great. And some of that is just like Copeland's driving, so like you're sort of going to be a little compromised already because of that. And then in the half court defense, they just kept cycling through different pick and roll coverages. They start out switching 1 through 5. They really didn't have the personnel to do it because throughout the season, because Holloman is just like a little small, you've got to try to like, scram switch him out of matchups. And to do that, you really need like Darian Williams to be like a big time defender and the guy that's just sort of like flying around behind the play and kicking smaller guys out of matchups. If your 5 is going to be the one switching ball screens up at the arc, and those plays just like that stuff just like never hit. The rotations were never crisp enough. They would get beat trying to like make those types of switches. They often sent help early and aggressively, but then there was this, and I'm talking about tonight, but also like throughout the season, like the second and third rotations weren't there. It's like, if you send 2 to the post, then someone from the weak side wing or corner has to crash down to make sure that the guy at the front of the wide open 4 or 5 on the opposite dunker spot.
One pass kick out threes.
It was, and then tonight, they're hedging ball screens at the start. And they just have not, like, the rotational issues that they had trying to like do this aggressive switch, early help scheme, similar sort of like bad tendencies, I think bled into, hedging ball screens. You're putting a second defender on the ball, Van Allen Lubin. All of a sudden you've got 3 guys behind the play to guard 4 offensive players. You don't have a lot of size, right? You've got, primarily it's going to be Darian Williams and 2 wings, or, wing and a guard. And they just could not cover enough ground. They didn't have enough rim protection on the backside. If they've got the center, they don't really have good rim protection, even if they've got the center in front of the rim. But if they've got Van Allen Lubin hedging a ball screen 25 feet from the rim, then the tallest guy that they've got on the backside is 6'5" at Darian Williams, who's not this not putting out a ton of fires, as like a low man help defender. Terrence Arsenault had moments this season, and I think when State had a good stretch in conference play, sort of during that like early to middle portion, like Terrence was like found like a role, was giving them like enough juice offensively, and you could get his offensive rebounding, you could get his defensive versatility. Like Terrence being a guy that could just like consistently play 20 minutes every night, I don't think was going to like solve all of these just like litany of issues that they had on that side of the court. But to me, like he was a big bet on for them defensively. Like he was a guy that you're like, okay, when Darian comes off the court, we'll put Terrence on and he can play the 4 and he can switch and he can, be, a disruptor in the press. And then we can play those guys together because they both can shoot it enough. And that'll let us have a little bit more size. We'll be a little bit more switchy, and just like that stuff never, like Terrence just I feel for him because I think a lot of it was him getting off to a tough start due to injuries, which is the thing that has plagued his career going back to Houston. And that sucks. But like he was the guy that on like the wing was going to be like could have been like a plus defender. And solid rebounder, and they just like it was hard to like over the course of the full season outside of stretches for a week or two, it was hard to like nail down a role. And then there was no one else. Like, Jerry Dang was redshirting, and not like he's like a great defender or anything, but just like that was it. That was their wing. That was the wing rotation. So. Yeah, I know I just spat out a lot there, but like
needed to because I had to move.
Oh, good. Well, to me, ultimately, like
digital dash.
To me, the defense, they just never found an identity this season, and that the lack of identity caused them to try a lot of different stuff, and outside of like isolated moments or games, I don't think anything like really like stuck as something that they knew that they could like always depend on a night-to-night basis. And ultimately that's going to have to be addressed with roster construction this offseason.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I felt like the only consistent force you had was, an undersized big man. And then if Quadir Copeland was driving early and having success, the defense had to give up a lot to defend him, and it would lead to driving kicks for him. And, NC State could open up the offense from there. But if those two things weren't working and teams were able to take those things away, you had to lean upon, other guys that might not have been as consistent. I say all that because like Paul McNeil is not a guy that creates his own shot a lot. So he needs others to kind of score around him. And then that opens up looks for him. He'll knock one down. He'll, that instantly helps the team. Matt Abel's kind of the same way. Matt Abel can create his own shot, but like, those guys need others to perform well, and then they'll get open looks, or, they open it up for other people. But you didn't really see it as much this season when other guys struggled. So, yeah, BG, you want to say something else?
Yeah, this is not to just flip it. I'm going to bring it back to I'm bringing it to sort of the offense with Darian Williams. So these stats that I'm about to reel off tonight right now, this does not include tonight's game. But in the 21 games from the win over Ole Miss, which was the non-conference game in Greensboro, right before the winter break, through the end of the ACC tournament, the loss to Virginia, they played 21 games. State went 12-9 during that stretch. Darian Williams, 36% shooting from the field, 38% on threes. It's pretty good. 34% shooting on twos. And in that stretch, he attempted just 37 free throws. Passed it well, low turnover player for the most part. But like for this, maybe we'll find out after the season that like Darian's been hurt. That's these numbers don't make sense to me. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how like glaringly bad these things are. Like him shooting under 35% on twos for a like 2.5 month stretch of the season and attempting only 37 free throws. Like something, he only shot 40% on twos tonight. It's not like he was like lights out either. Like I was expecting this guy to be a like star player. I didn't think he was going to be a player of the year in the ACC by the end of the year, but I would have thought for sure this is like a first or second team all conference type guy. And he's had an amazing career in college. The guy's been his resume kind of speaks for itself, especially with what he did at Tech. But this was a tough stretch to close the season for him. So they needed more, and including tonight, and it was never as good as it needed to be.
Yeah, and it was pretty evident too that Will expected that as well. I think this roster was built around him being the centerpiece, and yes, there were times where look, the offense, his own offense would take a dip because of the fact that he would kick it out to other people, and it would lead to the offense being able to open up in that way. Yeah. But when he's not a consistent enough scorer and he's not a guy that you can rely on enough, it makes it hard to really put the ball in his hands and be that consistent playmaker for you.
Texas made the right call tonight to not double him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like see if you can do it. See if you can beat us from the mid post. We bet you can.
And I feel like as the allure of what he was wore off a little bit with the way he performed,
everybody was doing
that led to the struggle. It's like, oh, we don't need to double him. He's not going to be that efficient if we let him go one-on-one most nights. Yeah, and that proved to be true.
Yep. Because the doubles on Williams, that's the stuff that leads to
him getting 8 assists.
Cut finishes for Lubin, who's a great cutter. Cut finishes for Copeland, who, it would have been nice for that guy throughout the season to have more rim finishes that weren't him having to drive through 3 guys to get to the rim.
Yeah. It's hard to clear out space when everybody's wanting to drop coverage on you and saying, all right, we're going to force you to shoot from outside.
Yeah. Those are the kickouts to Paul McNeil. Those are kickouts to Matt Abel. And if that stuff is being taken off the table because teams aren't putting 2 on the ball, again, this sort of lever that you all of a sudden you're pulling this lever, and you're expecting a certain reaction to happen. And when you're not getting that reaction, then all of a sudden it's at least just speaking for myself, panic would start to set in. You know what I mean? And I think that is something that in some way, shape, or form happened to them, over the course of the back half of the season.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the frustration watching Q tonight there was a couple times where he drove inside and actually, drew a double team, or, clearly he wasn't going to be able to get a shot off and ended up having somebody open out on the wing. And instead, he just went up and tried to drive through contact. They didn't foul him. He misses a shot. He gives up an easy rebound. They're able to get out in transition. That happened more than once. And I know it was a couple times where he just took ill-advised shots. And it's that you needed more in those situations. And NC State wasn't able to get it. All right. I'm going to move on to the Will Wade portion of this show. I do have a couple comments. I know I'm seeing, from the comments, a couple people have already watched the video. But I do want to play this. We got a chance to talk to Will a little bit after, right after, we had locker room stuff and everything along those lines. And I'll post all those videos, by the way, guys. We're trying to do all this in real time, and it's a lot going on. But I'll play this Will Wade portion here so that everybody can see it.
Yeah, just different mixture of guys.
First of all, let me set this up. He was asked what he wants to see next season, mind you. So I do want to set that up really quickly so that people actually know what he's saying here.
Just different mixture of guys. Guys that had an insatiable will to win, desire to prove people wrong. Just had a way about them that they wanted to go against the establishment a little bit. We have a bunch of guys here that are pretty comfortable, live a good life, love being here. That's just not how I am. So, guys that fit a little bit more how we want to be moving forward.
How do you change that when you're operating the portal to find?
We do much better research now. We got a hell of a plan. I've been working on this for the last 6 weeks. We got a good plan, what we're going to do, the type of people we want to target at each position, and we're going to go find some guys that fit our profiles.
Is it nice knowing that?
This was the next one I want to play here too.
You have a formula, but we will be fine.
A little more on this one.
Don't worry about us. We'll be held next year. Be the worst team we've had. This will be the worst team we have at NC State right here. I just watched it. This is the floor of our program, and we will be much better moving We know what's got to get fixed. I'm very got a very clear mind on what we need and how we need to go about attacking and doing it. And that's what we're going to do. Like I said, as soon as the plane hits the ground tomorrow in Raleigh, we're to work. There's no vacation. There's no time off. Like, we're getting to work, and we're going to get this thing turned around.
What need do you feel like it is in the front court for next year?
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive. I mean, we need front court help. We need three guys that can play multiple positions, and so we need massive front court help. There's zero doubt about that.
So, as you can gather, Will Wade not particularly pleased with the way that the way things went this season. It does sound like, again, they're excited for the opportunity to be able to go out in the portal and go, try to redo all of this and try to add some guys. Just you guys' thoughts on the way, first of all, just your reaction to what Wade said, but also just, the way this kind of season went against, basically what his expectations were for the year.
I think he's frustrated with, he's obviously frustrated with a lot of things, but he kind of unloaded the chopper there a little bit from a standpoint of he's basically told us all year directly that how he feels about this group and the frustrations he's had with this group. And it feels like he's just talking and it's falling on deaf ears. And that's exactly what you got. Like that was very, very frustrated. But when he says like the vision is clear, the vision is it's obvious. It's very, very clear what needs to get done. He's known it for a while. He probably knew it before the season even started, kind of what was going to go wrong here. But like with all of that said, you come in, you build a competitive roster right away. You get to the NCAA tournament. Granted, it doesn't go how you want it to go. You don't go where you want to go in the NCAA tournament, having to go to Dayton. But yeah, that was him getting some stuff off of his chest there and making sure that the fan base is aware that he's aware of the issues as well and is going to address them right away. Probably in a few hours, actually.
Yeah.
He said once you get off the plane tomorrow, there's no vacation. So
yeah.
The tone of that is not. That's not like the sort of like that's not like swaggering bravado.
It's not performative in any way.
Yeah, that's him. I mean, some of it is like reassurance. He's probably trying to reassure himself and his staff, but obviously some of the fan base too. But I would say like the next 6 weeks are huge. And it goes longer than that. Obviously, like this roster construction piece can take could be the next 3 months as well. But this is a big stretch. I think there are a variety of like needs and concerns that are obvious in terms of like that need to be addressed. And it's just like, can you find the pieces to sort of like slot into those issues that need work? And so, again, I appreciate his honesty and straightforwardness when it comes to these things. But after last off season, which was like, there was so much goodwill, I would hope with like most reasonable people, at least like in the light of day, tomorrow or later this week, whatever, you realize that like this season, it was not perfect, but they did make the tournament. They had some big wins, and they have people in place who, led by Will Wade, who have had success. You know what I mean? Have built stuff like this before, have attracted excellent talents to come play for them. And that they've just got to sort of like, be dealt another hand here, and hopefully one that plays a little bit better next season.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out here too, I mean, Pat said here, no doubt he emphasizes the 6-minute game, and we were never good. The buck stops with him. The thing I'll add to that too is that was something he said before closing games was an issue. Like he would talk about the 6-minute game against VCU. He talked about the 6-minute game against like Liberty. And just like, we were pleased with the way that this went, but like the 6-minute game down the stretch still has to get better. Like we can't get outscored in a game where we outscore a team 20 points. We can't get outscored in the end of the 6-minute game. Like we have to have these mental reps. And I think part of what he's saying, during that I believe it was the second quote or the first quote actually that I played there, where he's saying, a lot of guys who are just comfortable in what they've done already and comfortable with, the careers that they've had, essentially just coming in NC State, like, all right, we're just going to go, finish my career and things are going to go, perfectly fine because of the fact that they've had deep runs in the tournament, because of, quite frankly, and not to say this is in every instance, but, it kind of was for, guys like Trey Hollum and some others on this roster, Terrence Arsenault, but like, hey man, look, there's been other guys that have been the alphas. There's been other guys that have been lifting your team. And this was your moment to go out there and be that guy and be one of the reasons why your team made a deep run, be one of the reasons why your team got to, a good seed and just never materialized. That never happened for this team. And I think that, to above all else, is the frustration for Will Wade, is the fact that he built this roster with the thought process of like, all right, all these guys are going to fit my bravado. They're going to fit, my fight down the stretch. And they're just, outside of a couple moments, outside of a Trey Holloman block because of the fact that Quavier Copeland missed the front end of a 1-on-1 down at SMU, outside of, closing out a couple games, you think of like the Clemson game on the road. Like those were really the only moments for this team. But they were so few and far between. Outside of that, 6-game winning streak, it's really been a lot of exactly what you saw tonight. Other teams stepping up and meeting that moment. And NC State, now, granted, down the stretch to close this game out, NC State actually played really well getting back into this game. But the fact that you had to get back into this game in a first 4 game where we heard on Sunday they were so frustrated with the fact that they landed here that there was no word said. Like they didn't talk to each other. They wouldn't say a single thing because they knew the mission. And you come in and don't succeed. Like you just come in and absolutely flop for the first, half, for quite a bit of the second half. And then you show the fight to finally come back. But by that point, all your other team needs to do is just hit one shot at the very end. You're still not putting yourself in a position to win a game down the stretch. And NC State just was not able to do that in so many games this season. I think that is where a lot of the frustration from Will Wade comes from, because he's not used to having to deal with that. He's not used to losing, 5 games at home this season. He's not used to, teams just kind of being good with being good. And that's not what he wants. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't really pass it on to you guys, but I just, y'all's thoughts on just, what needs to happen for this team moving forward to actually find what Will Wade wants.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, cool. Now my internet went out for a second. It's still being pumped.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Repeat the question though. I did not hear you.
No, I was just saying, like, what do you feel like needs to happen this offseason in order for Will Wade to put together all the pieces that he needs? What is the, he wouldn't tell us the formula. He's got a formula. But if you were putting together a formula for what this team needs to do, what would you say?
It's honestly, it's very similar to the advice I'm giving guys that I know are about to enter the portal. It's like you have to find certain boxes that you need checked. And whatever guys check those boxes, you filter them and you go get them. With that said, Will's teams have to have shooting similar to the shooting that he had this year. You hope you can bring some of that back in Abel and McNeil. We'll see if either of those two come back. I think there's a good chance either stay or either leave. That's just how that's the nature of basketball at this point at the collegiate level. But two, like, I know for a fact that the personality dynamic of this team was not where they wanted it to be. It is extremely, extremely difficult to build a roster with. You have a high school kid coming in, Zamika Wilkins. We'll see what happens with him too. He had a weird summer that really, really set him back. So I'm very, very intrigued to see what happens. Luckily, he
lost 30 pounds. He lost 30 pounds this season and actually told me said he's in the best shape of his life. So
and he looks like it too. He's a really good player. I'll be intrigued to see what happens with him. They know better than us because they've seen him in practice every day. But you have him, you have Paul, you have Matt. You have to surround them with shooting, but they know they need to go get 3 legit bigs that can play 20 to 25 minutes a game if needed. One or two of those guys that are able to play the 4, switch out, maybe stretch the floor a little bit.
Mhm.
But the personality type of it is such an important thing. So finding guys that really align with Will and whatever the staff looks like next year's personality. I do believe there is an open spot. So I believe that will at the very least get filled, and there's bound to be some other shuffling of that staff as well.
Yeah, it's important to note like the sort of like multi-positional front court guy that can step out and shoot. It's like, every team wants those too. So it's like those are the super. That was part of the allure with Williams was like, oh my God, they got maybe he doesn't have that like proto like size and defensive ranginess, but you're thinking like he can do enough of that plus he can like create offense. Like that to me is why I was so like his addition was so like intriguing.
And they do have a big sign, which is something else that Trevon Carter-Givens is signed, and we'll see what he ends up being. But he's
a lead shot blocker, and that is something they were absolutely missing this year.
I was going to say they don't have a guy on the roster. I mean, Musa in moments was that he really, really struggled tonight.
I felt bad. I mean, he fouled out in like a couple of minutes of play, and his shoulder was. I'm blanking on one of the staff members. Like after Musa fouled out and was like holding his right shoulder on the bench, one of the staff members, it was like was trying to be nice, but like patted him on the shoulder. And it was like, no, it's hurt.
It was. I will say this.
That's not the body part to.
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts about that. It was hard to see what was happening down that far. I was right. I mean, I was literally right behind where Dickie V and
you had plenty of TV time.
Yeah, I heard. But like, I couldn't even see. And my wife texted me. She's like, "He's clearly hurt. Why are they not taking him out?" And I was like, I couldn't tell if
I could tell you why they're not taking him out because they were going to let him just foul out.
Yeah, and he did. I mean,
and he did right away. He bought 2 seconds for
3 fouls and he fouls in one position.
Yeah, he did a good job of fouling. Trevon Carter-Givens is signed 6'11", 7'5" wingspan, mobile rim runner, not a shooter, but they didn't have anyone like that on this roster tonight.
It feels like he's the kind of guy that could feel like, to me, he makes a ton of sense in like the way that like Wade and Brandon Chambers wanted to play defense coming into the season too. Switch, play this guy at the top on the press, maybe to switch, let him guard different positions, give you some rim protection. So like you see the upside there.
And ideally, he's your 4th big though. That's the thing.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems like he's a development. I mean, you know him better than I do, but my understanding was like he's a development piece who's getting better. But yeah, it's going to probably take more time.
And they do have Cole Clower as well.
So that was the other thing I was going to say too, is like, if you can bring back one of Paul or Matt, I mean, maybe both. I think they're both like excellent shooting guards.
I think McNeil will flirt with the draft a little bit, but I don't think he
should.
Evaluation
he should go through all of the like he should totally do all of that. But if they have Cole plus Paul and Matt, or whatever, some combination of those guys, like, I feel pretty good about where they're starting from a shooting perspective. One of the things that I do want them to address, and this is where like Holloman and Williams, those guys sort of like not quite hitting their ceilings this season, it really hurt, was that like there was no like pull-up shooting on the roster. And that to me is a thing. And again, it's like that stuff doesn't grow on. That doesn't grow on.
Had those guys, i.e. Cam Thomas.
Yeah, Cam Thomas. Blanking on Javonte Smart, another one at LSU that was like an excellent, sort of like mid-range pick and roll, pull-up shooter and scorer.
And Cole does some of that too.
That's good. Like and I think Paul, honestly, like for Paul, that's the stuff he should be looking to add too, because obviously he's like a big time shooter, but it's like, and that's a great like elite skill for him to have. But it's like, you now in the NBA, you've got to, if you can be like a roving movement shooter and play in the NBA for a long time and make a lot of money, but like those guys also have to have counters for just different, like you've got to be able to put the ball on the deck. You've got to be able to like make different kinds of reads. I actually think Paul has some of that in his game. I think he showed flashes of it, especially like late last season. I actually kind of liked what he can do as a passer. So like I think it's in there. I just kind of want to see him expand on it and get more comfortable doing it. But to me, they need a guy that can, and maybe look, this in theory is like, I guess what PJ Haggerty would have been if he had ended up at State. It's like you would have had this sort of like, off dribble creator scorer type
bailout guy.
Yeah.
To me, I thought Williams and Holloman would give you that this season, and they did not. They just did not have. Maybe they did it for stretches, but they didn't have enough of it, obviously. And they're going to need to find someone to be like an offensive engine for them next season that can score from different levels of the court with a live dribble. That to me feels like another like priority. The only thing it's like if you get that person, what's their size? If you're trying to also like be a team that could switch everything, can you find someone who's 6'4", 200 pounds that can do that stuff too, as opposed to 6 foot 170. So it's a tough needle to thread, but again, I think sort of like the needs are clear too.
Also, one note for the fans still watching: watch McNeese's game this week.
Yeah,
there's still a very strong relationship there.
Yep.
Any of those guys are ready to move up. Like, just pay attention, maybe do some research. Would not surprise me. And this is not with any concrete intel. This just would not surprise me if we see one or two of those guys join this NC State team next year. They had a monster season yet again, and I think they have a very good chance to beat a Vanderbilt team. They're very similar talent level to wise top to bottom.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's not to say like like a minor league team or something like that, but like there is a system there that has worked for them. Players wanting, going from higher levels, needing to move back up, or players that are at lower levels that are like, hey, I want to go from D2 and be a scorer at this level to prove that I can do it here. And those guys, if they go and do that, they have a fit at the next level. And then there's another crop that comes in there and can immediately contribute. Last thing I wanted to kind of wrap this thing up with, because we'll talk about the portal. We'll talk about, NC State's needs and where they're going in the portal in the near future too, and what types of things happen. But I do want to point out, by the way, Paul McNeil, we talked about him a little bit, finishes with 3 3-pointers tonight, needed 4 to break the all-time NC State record. And he had opportunities. He's mad about it too. And I would be frustrated as well. But he does tied DJ Horn for the most 3-pointers in a single season with 105 this year. So just an incredible season from him. Also, Venon Lubin, we've talked about the effort from him. It's not an ideal situation. Obviously, you were a little handcuffed because you were hoping that a guy like Moussa Sanye would step up and become a better big. There was thought process that like Jerry Dean could play a 4 or 5 type role for you, but he just didn't quite fit for what this team needed. And then you also have a guy like, Scotty Bube that you bring in and can be a little bit of a bruiser, but obviously the scoring was not there for him. So it's hard to put him out there on the court for extended periods. So Venon Lubin, a guy that needed to create for you all year long, finishes the season. I just added it up, by the way, a 2 for 6 performance from him tonight. Not great, not great overall shooting, but gave you good numbers from the free throw line again. 2 for 2, actually finishes, I believe, over the last 3 games of the season, finished 18 of 18 from the free throw line, which is an elite number for him. Obviously, you can't get any better than that, but he finishes the season shooting 66.8% from the field, which breaks the all-time NC State record. So a guy that comes in 1 year for you, you needed him to be efficient. Like that was Wade's clearly his whole goal. Every single guy that he went after out of the transfer portal, as far as a big, whether it was a guy that was 7'1" or a guy that was 6'8", they needed to be efficient. They needed to be a rim runner. They needed to be somebody that can finish inside, get you a putback, and get back on the defensive end of the floor. Venon Lubin, struggles defensively at times. Obviously, there was a couple times where he struggled from the free throw line, but a guy that absolutely needed to be a contributor for you. He was all season long, and one of the most efficient players in the entire country at that as well. Miles, any extra flowers you want to give there, or anybody else that you wanted to kind of point out that did give that effort and show growth this season too?
Definitely Paul McNeil. I think for him, definitely felt like he had more of a role or deserved more of a role than he had early on last season, and proved to be completely correct. And then bet on himself, came back, was able to talk to Will and realize that this would make sense, and then really showed that he can be a full-time weapon behind the three-point line. He really was one of the best shooters in the country this season. So seeing him go from a guy that was struggling to get on the floor for most of last season to proving he belonged at this level and is a feature guy at this level and has a really good chance of playing in the NBA. If you were to talk to him in the December of the year, he might have been down on himself, but knowing Paul, he probably was just stacking good days and just waiting for his chance. So I would definitely want to give some flowers to him. And we talked about him being up and down defensively, really showed growth in that aspect of his game. And if he has another summer, another offseason like that in that department, will continue to help his team win games at whatever level of basketball he's playing. So I would say
he never lacked energy or effort. What we've talked about for the few other players, the
Always.
frustration. But yes, did lead to a few defensive breakdowns, quite a few, if we're being honest. But it wasn't from a lack of effort. It was just from getting into the wrong position at times and guys being able to. We talked about it last week. At the ACC tournament, just little things that lead to easier shots for players.
There was never really a moment too big for him. We saw it tonight. I mean, he hit 2 huge shots late to get them back into the game. So for
by the way, on the corner 3, did that look like he was fouled on that? It looked like
it could have been.
We haven't talked at all about Texas's coaches storming the court
with
after Mark. Unbelievable. Yeah. That was a hilarious.
Could you imagine?
They should have. That should have been the call. It's crazy.
It's the second time that's happened last week, isn't it? What? There was a conference tournament game where that happened at the very end last week. Can't think of what it was, but it was similar situation. They hit it, and
buzzer pump fake the coach.
Yeah, and there's 2 seconds left. Man.
I'm with you on Paul as the bright spot. As far as players go, he was a real joy to watch. I watch and chart every state game, but I do that with a couple of other ACC teams. And Paul was as much fun to watch as pretty much anyone that I followed this season. And for someone that I really wanted to see get on the court more last season, and it just didn't quite happen. This was super rewarding. Even for me, on the outside looking in, because I thought he was good. I thought there were numbers in film that suggested that Paul could be an impact guy. But man, I'm not going to lie. I saw him being a good player and a contributor. Him shooting 43% from downtown, and making all kinds, hitting over 100 threes
on the volume and degree of difficulty.
Which, mind you, that percentage was also top 5 all time in NC State history too. The 3-point percentage was also top 5 all time for a single season.
And he finishes the season with just 14 turnovers too. And obviously he was in this pretty narrow catch and shoot role. I mean, he if they put the ball in his hands more next season or whatever, he's going to turn the ball over more. And I wouldn't even mind that happening. But man, 43% from deep and 83% from the line, just a big time shooter. And it's one of those things you could see this even in the stuff that State's staff was putting out on social media. Paul clearly is a worker.
I was going to say just a super blue collar dude.
How can you not, for a guy who has this really sort of nutty shooting game, it seems to really have this diligent work ethic and just desire to get better. The photos of him being in the gym back in Raleigh, hours after they were eliminated from the ACC tournament spoke volumes, I think, of him as it's sort of like where he wants to be and where he's going. So I think there are other sort of like things you could highlight. Overall, State's offense was really good this season. I think there's the groundwork is in place for this team to be a reliably good offense, assuming the talent level is there to sort of like match the scheme. But Paul to me is just clearly like the brightest piece for the Pack this year.
The other one too would be Quadir Copeland, just from a leadership standpoint. Like, I don't know where they really would have been without him kind of driving that emotional needle where it needed to be. And he also was uber productive and one of the most consistent guys they had. And he probably would say that I wasn't as consistent as I needed to be, but for the most part was really, really good. And he brought a certain energy, an edge that not really anybody else in the lineup was wired to bring, or they were wired to bring if they chose not to.
Yeah. I was thinking about this earlier tonight. I was thinking about this tonight, even before pardon.
Sorry, I think I'm a little bit behind you, so it's like when I'm talking, it's I'm saying you go right ahead.
Yeah, no. All I was gonna say was, like Copeland exceeded my expectations this season. He was production wise, he was in like, sort of like his ability to like drive an offense. Not just drive like any offense, drive like a top 20 offense in the ACC is not an easy thing to do. For him to carry the burden he had in terms of usage, assist rate, it was a lot. And it just would have been interesting if like I don't know, interesting's not the right way to put it, but like this team, its ceiling like really could have been maybe something more special if like you had gotten a better version of Williams, because for Paul to be as good as he was, for Quadir to be as good as he was, for Van Allen Lubin offensively to be as good as he was, if they had one more sort of like A-level creator in Williams, this team could have been something special to deal with. But that's all over now. This is it's a wrap. So you flush this one, turn the page, and I'll be interested to see how the roster build goes from here, because it's like this to me is like silly season in basketball, but it's also like unbelievably important too. So
these next 3 weeks for them before kids actually can enter and they can call them directly are huge.
Yeah. I mean, this is
already started.
This is why some teams have like declined NIT right? This
Absolutely.
Is why, it's gotta be. Yeah.
I feel bad for the teams.
I do want
Sorry, I'm gonna say real quick. Whoever's did the crown, what an awful idea. They have to sit around and wait 2 weeks and they go play.
Yeah.
What an awful, awful, awful idea. With all due respect to all involved. I'm sure the intentions were good. What an awful idea. Play those games tonight, tomorrow, and
move on.
Call tonight.
I do want to give a shout out to Buster here, though. He's going through it in the comments. He said this was one of the most frustrating teams I've ever watched. Then said most inconsistent ever, and then said immediately after the game, I didn't want anyone back, but I will have to think on it more.
Buster, perspective is a powerful thing.
He said this season literally took a year off my life. So,
Buster,
and I think a lot of NC State fans I mean, you kind of feel that, and you're used to frustration, but this was frustrating because you saw glimmers of the talent. You saw moments that this team could be, I mean, like, I'm not just saying a good team. Like, this team had glimpses where they looked like they could be an elite level team. And then a lot of times it just melted away at the end. You saw it against Miami. You saw it against Georgia Tech. You saw it against Notre Dame. Like, all of those moments where all you had to do was finish out a game, and you were clearly the better team in those games. Whether or not you were the better team overall is not up for contest here. but like you didn't put yourself in a good enough position to get to be successful once you got to the postseason. And that's the most frustrating element of this team to me, is not putting together again, not hitting your layups, not hitting your 3-foot putts, whatever you want to call it. This team had entirely too much talent to do that and just weren't, I don't know if it wasn't willing or just didn't make it all work together to that point. And I think that is going to be one of the biggest elements of this offseason that Will Wade is going to focus on. So any other thoughts before we wrap this up, guys? Just it is 2:42 a.m. now, and I appreciate.
I just gave my bed a look. Like,
yeah, I'm coming, baby. I see you over there.
Yeah, my dog is mad at me. It's like straight up mad. It's like, what are you like? Even for you, this is a late night because I stay up during basketball season. I am like it's like a 1 a.m. bedtime, but like we're way past that now. So
I'm like 74% sure I have an undiagnosed sleeping disorder, so I definitely have to be sure to be locked in.
Oh man!
All right, so that was our final thought.
That's it.
We're the final thought is we're tired and we need to go to bed.
Yes.
I would just say to Buster, dude, this season it took a year off of everyone's life. The passage of time is undefeated. Like
100%.
The calendar has literally flipped to another year. So no one is immune to that, and it's going to be. I mean, it's maybe it's not going to be okay, but it's going to be okay also too.
Also, like, perspective is a powerful thing. It was a lot better than last year. You just hope they can, make more strides and improve upon this year. They can find a way to win 25, 27 games. Hopefully we'll be doing, the season-ending podcast a few weeks from now.
Man, the last 4 seasons have been just crazy endings. Like, think about it, it's just the final 4 to not making the ACC tournament to like first 4 and out is just, oh man, it's great. The roller coaster, man. It really is.
Yeah. You talked about perspective, by the way, to put things into perspective, literally today, because it is now March 18th, literally today, a year ago, that morning, and I've got the screen grabs to prove it. That morning I posted on our boards, under our Will Wade tab that we had, that everybody was posting to, that NC State has come to an agreement on a contract. It will not be signed until, McNeese State is out. So like this time a year ago, NC State agreed to have Will Wade come in and be the coach. So like that's where you are a year later, this team going from a non-ACC tournament team to an NCAA tournament team. Oh, and mind you, the next day after that was when another writer put the scoop out that he was the first to report it out of anybody in the country, even though it had just been reported over 24 hours earlier. But some people don't put it out there publicly because they're still in the NCAA tournament. But that's that's kind of for perspective where things stand for NC State, and again, like going into year 2, you know what it needs to look like, what you need from a roster standpoint, what you need from a staff standpoint. Now it's about going out and doing it. Miles and BG, I appreciate you guys jumping on to talk a little bit about the game and a lot more about just NC State in perspective as well. A 68-66 loss for NC State to end the season at 20-14, 10-8 in ACC play. Miles, I appreciate you, man.
Always. We'll have more, I'm sure. Maybe we'll do like a pre-portal rundown at some point, and then another one a week or 2 later after hopefully they sign a couple guys.
Yes, sir. And BG, go get some sleep. Let your dog know I apologize.
All good. Good talking with you, boys.
You owe him a treat.
Yeah, I will. Big one.
No, Cory owes him a treat.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
do. Yeah. Once I get back to Raleigh sometime tomorrow. So, all right. I appreciate you. Oh,
He's out.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again to everybody for listening. The 250 people still in here somehow or another between all the different platforms we posted to. Appreciate each and every one of you for keeping up with us throughout the year. We'll have much more from this game along with the rest of the NC State season. We'll talk to you guys again soon.